We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Hello, everyone. Today, I just thought I'd record a little Snapshot Mind Over Madness podcast. I hope that is okay with y'all. I know it's been quite some time, whilst you've had no content at all. We took a little bit of a break, and then there's a technical issue with the last one, so I just thought, rather than there be kind of a void of nothingness, I'll just use the notes that I have and just, make a little 15-minute one. So it's just going to be me and my thoughts, so excuse me if I babble on a bit, but, that's what me and my thoughts do. So anyway, first of all, I just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It's Boxing Day as I record this, and yeah, Christmas was yesterday, but I hope you had a very merry one. And I hope you are going to have a very good new year, because I personally had a very good one. It was nice to see just a handful of family members that I haven't seen in a while. It's just really nice. We had a bit of a video call with the rest of the extended family, like halfway through the meal, which was nice. I think just everyone's just making do with the situation as it is, because I know there's some certain COVID rules that stop people from seeing loved ones in all the different nations, and it's just, you don't want to have a massive party at this stage. I know some people do, and it's perfectly okay for some people to do it, but not what I personally would choose to do at this time of the year, especially with COVID and the flu season and just everything in general being a bit more transmissible. So without further ado, I'll get into some notes that I've got from previous podcasts that were, haven't come to air yet. But yes, I'll just talk a little bit about COVID. There's the new Omicron variant, which was discovered a couple of months ago in South Africa. It's now over here, and it's reported, well, it's not really reported anymore, it's scientifically a lot more transmissible than the previous variants. I believe it's like a spawn of, or a mutation of the Alpha one, which was the original COVID strain. So the fact that it's changing in this way is kind of good news and bad news. I believe the more transmissible the virus is, obviously it's getting through a lot more people, and in order to do that, it needs to not kill or severely hurt the host. So with the counterbalance of it being more transmissible, it's obviously a little bit less severe, which is good news. That's according to the numbers that we have so far. There's a bit of a lag in the numbers over Christmas, of course, because, people are allowed to celebrate Christmas Day. They're allowed a little bit of time off. But I know, obviously, a lot of people haven't had time off and they've been working, and the vaccination centres that have had volunteers in there all the way through Christmas. And it's very admirable, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure I'd want my turkey Christmas pudding and a vaccine on the same day, but people, you do you. I mean, there are worse things to do on Christmas Day, that's for sure. But yeah, so there's been some new rules brought in or been pondered about, especially in England. I know Wales and Scotland, they've had rules come in from today, which is Boxing Day. Some like various ones like Rule of Six and more COVID passports in specific venues. It's like, I'm kind of glad that they haven't chose to do this kind of before Christmas, because it would have been very much a downer for everyone, and not to mention political suicide for Boris Johnson as well. So it's just a bit of a shame, really, that we've had to come to these restrictions again, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as, March 2020 or anything like that. So it should, I think when the numbers start coming out in sufficient numbers where we can actually accrue answers from the data and make specific links, then it may start to realise that it's not severe, and maybe we can just kind of pass this off as, like, going forward, a common cold. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that'll be the case. My two doggies are over here snoring away, so if you can pick that up, I do apologise. Oh, you good girls. So I mentioned Boris Johnson before. I was just speaking of him a little bit. Obviously, during the first and second lockdowns, they were kind of doing a few parties at Downing Street, and I don't think there's been a single minister that actually hasn't broken the rules in some way. We've had Matt Hancock, we've had Dominic Cummings, we've had Boris Johnson, and various others, Allegra Stratton, all kind of admitting to parties and just general no respect for the public or the rules or the scientists, really, because they were shown to have like garden parties in the summer of 2020 when we were all told, do not be fooled by the nice weather. Go, like, you could be allowed to eat one person for like an exercise. People were genuinely scared about going out for more than one walk a day, as if that was like illegal. You're going to get hunted down by the police. Meanwhile, in Downing Street, there is garden parties, people are not socially distanced, wine and cheese. It's all about wine and cheese for some reason. A party in Downing Street is wine and cheese. It's just a bit, it leaves a very bitter taste, and they'll try and spin it as if, well, there's some kind of authority, immunity to these rules, because, I'm the Prime Minister, or just an air of superiority that they can get away with it and spin it as a work party. But I think nobody's buying it, really, and the penny has dropped for the public in the fact that if he had chosen to lock down Christmas again, don't think many people would have listened, to be quite honest with you. But yes, I'll move swiftly away from political things, and I'll talk a bit about Alec Baldwin. So there's obviously the horrible case of the shooting on the film set, which I'm sure we've all heard about by now. Alec has actually done a few interviews since then, and he has come out as saying that he hadn't actually been the one to pull the trigger. But I mean, there are kind of numerous ways for a gun to kind of release its bullets. I mean, like, I'm not a gun expert. I live in the UK. Guns are illegal to own here unless you have a proper permit for whatever reason. But I believe there's a way to actually release this gun without having to actually pull the trigger. So maybe it was a case of him unholstering it or whatever. But it's hard to speculate when we weren't there. We won't really know the full truth until there is a proper investigation and it's all kind of wrapped up, So it was truly sad, but I think him going out in public, he obviously wants to let the people know his side of the story, and that's fair enough. But at this point, I don't think it actually helps his cause to be kind of so open about it, and he's obviously a bit of a people pleaser. He wants to be the one to kind of give the good news or like give the truth, and it can kind of come across that there's maybe something he's hiding just for some people. So I don't know if that's something maybe I'm just reading into it, or I don't know. I just sometimes it's just better to keep radio silent on some of these things, Go the whole royal family approach and just do not say anything. I feel like that helps rather than just kind of keep it going for the sake of your popularity or your career, and just to be liked, really. I mean, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and if someone wants to throw you to the wolves, then, all it takes is one slip of the tongue, and that's it, isn't it? But yeah, so it is a truly horrific situation, and I hope it gets wrapped up and we find out what actually happened, and hopefully something can change in the future with regards to gun laws on sets. So yeah, it's ridiculous how they allow live ammunition on film sets in America anyway. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Hopefully something changes. I wanted to talk a little bit about the case of the little boy Arthur, who was abused in lockdown by his stepmother and father. It's like a tragic case of a boy who was abused, and it's really sad. Brings to light the kind of miscommunication between all the authorities, social services, the police, the medical departments of everywhere. It's a really sad case, which is one of the side effects of lockdowns and just miscommunications in general. Like, this boy was abused, made to stand for 16 hours a day over the course of 3 or 4 days on a naughty step, being poisoned, malnourished, not fed, not denied water, and yeah, I just hope lessons are learned from this case, because currently the stepmother and the father are both in prison now. Um, After the boy was, obviously fought his final battle and sadly passed away. I spoke about this on the podcast. It didn't go out, and it is quite emotional. And I was getting very angry talking about it, so I won't dwell on it for long. But I'm glad those evil pieces of human waste are behind bars now, and they won't be able to do it again in the future. Maybe they're not behind bars for long enough. I think it's 22 years or something like that, and one of them got life. And it's just like, is that really enough for taking the innocent life of a helpless young boy who's fully dependent on you? I mean, it's just beyond belief, isn't it? You just can't put into words how to describe these people and how they get away with it for so long. But I mean, what goes on behind closed doors? We're all told to stay at home during that time. So hopefully things can change with social services and because I think the grandmother did actually phone social services on one occasion, but it turned out that it just didn't lead anywhere. She had no reply, and apparently, if she'd have phoned the hospital and got medical help, then that would have sped things up. But how was she to know this? And there needs to be information out there of what to do if you see a child which you feel is being abused, But yeah, moving on. The trial of Ghislaine Maxwell is kind of, as we speak, going forward. I think the jury is still deliberating a decision on whether she was actually involved in the abuse of young girls and soliciting sex from minors, like with Jeffrey Epstein. I personally believe she is, half, if not more, responsible for all the upset and the chaos that has caused. Just like recruiting people for Jeffrey Epstein to have his way with is just, it's just evil. She deserves to be behind bars for quite a long time, I believe, because she was the one to gain these girls' trust. And trust is a funny thing. Yeah, but hopefully she will, an outcome will come of that where she is actually found guilty. So that's all we can hope, and for the sake of all the victims as well, I'm sure that's what they'll be saying. But yeah, I feel like I'm just kind of breezing over all of this, but I just want to try and get just a couple of things in here. I don't want it to drag on for too long, as it is. Already like 13 minutes long. I was only planning to do 15 minutes, so fair enough. So yeah, I think we'll move on for a bit more lighter subjects now. Move on to the films. Let's move on to films. So recently I've been watching Hawkeye on Disney Plus. I would say that is a good series to get into. I'm a fan of all of the MCU series on Disney Plus. I quite liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was my favourite. I know it was James's favourite as well. I watched Loki. I watched WandaVision, and I think there's another one which I forgot. But yeah, all kind of great series. I believe if you want a more grounded experience with the series, I'd go with Hawkeye and Falcon. It just seems a bit more boots on the ground style rather than travelling between realities and universes, and a bit like Loki and a bit Doctor Who-y. I know I personally prefer the more grounded ones. But that's just me. The Walking Dead, I'm watching the final season of that. It feels like an absolute age since I started watching this show, years and years ago. I believe they've kind of run out of source material now in regards to the comics. But I think they're making the best of what they have. They've still got some OG characters, Daryl, Carol, and they're making the best of what they have. I'm really enjoying the last season so far. It seems like they've kind of upped the quality now that they know it's the last one. Maybe they've got like a fixed amount of budget to use up or something, but it seems like there's a lot less filler episodes. I feel like it's a bit of a problem in The Walking Dead where there's a lot of filler episodes in between the good segments of story. There's just these kind of void of nothing episodes, trying to be like, the Fly episode in Breaking Bad, but kind of failing a bit. But yeah, hopefully that just continues the pace. I think I'm on like episode 6 or something so far, so hopefully it keeps on picking up. Then there's interesting villains, interesting characters. Daryl is heavily featured in it so far. I'm just wondering how they will wrap it all up as well. So, will they bring Rick back? Ooh, I don't know. Will they? Oh, I know there was talks of like a film going ahead for The Walking Dead, but I've not heard much on that recently. Truth. Now that is a series on Netflix that I have watched recently. It's very good. I don't know if it was based on a true story, but it is about a comedian who is obviously a snowball effect, kind of he feels like he's committed a crime, and then it kind of just rolls and rolls into a more and more dark and dangerous situation. And he's trying to keep it all together and perform while that's happening. It is a very good, intense, and dramatic show. It's not something I normally kind of watch on Netflix, but I gave it a go, and I'm really glad I did actually. So I recommend that you all watch that. I know James will probably talk to you more about the Marvel Spider-Man film that came out very recently, No Way Home. I haven't personally seen it, so I can't really comment on it. I know I really enjoyed the previous two, though, Homecoming and Far From Home. Far From Home being one of my favourites. I love Mysterio. So yeah, he will talk to you more about that. What else? I know some films I'm looking forward to coming out is the next Scream film, which anyone who knows me knows I'm a bit obsessed with Scream. I think I've got some like memorabilia of Scream in every corner of the room. None that you can see right now, I don't think. Maybe there's a card up there. I don't know. I've got a Christmas card saying, happy killer, have a killer Christmas. But yeah, there's also The Kingsman, which is, I believe it's out today actually. It's kind of a weird one. I got my mum into watching these films, and she's like totally against things that aren't real. She prefers documentaries, and her favorite programs like 24 Hours in A&E. But for some reason, she loves this mindless violence and action in Kingsman. So that suits me. So me and her want to see that at some point in the next few days, which will be a lot of fun, I think. I'm really looking forward to that. If it's anything like the previous two. I know it's like a prequel, this one. Maybe a bit more serious tones. But hopefully it is good. I have high hopes. I do like Matthew Vaughn and all of his stuff. So I feel like it's in safe hands. I think that's it for the films that I can think of right now. As I say, I'm just going off kind of notes from the previous podcast, which I was hoping to get off my chest because it had been such a long time that I just wanted to get everything off. And yeah, so that's why this is happening. But with regards to games, now there is a rumours going around of like a 3-tiered PS Plus subscription service. Obviously, that's something to rival Xbox's Game Pass. I think it's a good idea. It's always great to have options and competition in the industry because you don't want one side getting everything, one side getting other things. I mean, it's bad enough with exclusives. I feel like there should be a game streaming or just Game Pass system on every console, which is I think it's probably the way forward. A lot of people prefer a kind of subscription-based model than buying things outright. I mean, look at Netflix in regards to our media, TV and film viewing. A lot of people would rather get something like Netflix, than buy every film that comes out that they want to see. It also opens people up to watching things that they maybe, or playing things that they would rather or maybe skip. Um, so there's that aspect as well. I think going forward, the future is with these subscription services. But I mean, it's good to have it as a three-tiered system because people who don't really want to pay that extra don't have to. Um, I know I myself, I would stick with the what I have now, whether that's tier one, tier two in the future. It's obviously you're required to get PS Plus for online gaming, and you get a benefit of having 2 or 3 games for free every month. And I'm quite happy with that at the moment. I'm not really one to go out and buy games all the time, but if there was this subscription model around, maybe I'd try and play a lot more games rather than sticking to the same ones all the time, which is what I tend to do. Excuse me, I just have a glass of water here. So obviously there's Unreal Engine 5 tech demo coming out, which involves the Matrix. It's an excellent tech demo and just a demo in general for a game that may or may not be coming out. Just the sheer graphical quality of things in there, even on my age-old TV, you can really tell the difference in that engine, and it just makes me excited for the future of gaming. I mean, there's bits of live action, bits of CGI in this trailer, and the line between them both is kind of very thin. But I mean, if you looked at the hair particles and stuff, you could definitely tell which bits were which. Because I mean, I was like I tuned myself to like try and notice the little things, but to someone who hadn't had a clue, then I think they really wouldn't be able to tell the difference, to be honest. But yeah, it makes me excited. I think Fortnite is already using that kind of engine, um, which is it's kind of a baseline. So I'm hoping that they will kind of make full use of it in the future. It's like obviously there's going to be like niggles and a little bit of time that needs to be taken to kind of get used to a new engine. So I think and next gen in general, I think there's not many games out there that actually use the potential of PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X. I'm hoping going forward next year that there'll be more games like that that are just perfectly made for these devices, rather than kind of backwards compatible, made for the previous gen and kind of boosted up. I want them made for the next gen and maybe boosted down if they, or nerfed down, if that's needs to be the case. Like I would prefer to play things on the generation I'm playing them on. Well, speaking of Fortnite, I wanted to move on to a little section of my personal best games of 2021. Or most surprising game, not necessarily the best. I'd say the most surprising one would be Fortnite, because 2 or 3 years ago, if someone said to me, "Oh, you're going to really like playing Fortnite, that kids' game, all the kids play," if they'd have said that to me, and then, I wouldn't have believed that I'd actually be playing it this year. So I was really positively surprised by it. It's come a long way since its birth, and I'm not really into these battle royale games, but I feel like I can give this one a pass because it's not the most difficult one on the block. But yeah, that's my most surprising one. I feel like the best game I played this year was It Takes Two, and I got that for my birthday back in April, and I wanted to play it with some friends, and it was good that you could like have the friends pass so that you could basically give it to a friend to play with you for the time that you're playing it. And I thought that was a really neat idea, similar to other games by that Hazelight Studios, that developer. It was a really enjoyable experience, not just for couples, but I played it with friends, and it was super fun. I don't think it mattered which side you played. Both of the sides were just super enjoyable, and yeah, I just loved the game. It's so charming and quirky, and funny in a lot of places. Yeah, it's nice to have a good old-fashioned co-op gaming experience where it feels like your buddy's on the couch next to you just playing it. It's just that's what I grew up doing, and it's nice to see that coming back in an age where everything's online and you're in a massive multiplayer universe. So yeah, that may be just me. We mentioned all these in a previous unaired podcast, but yes, I'm going to stick with those two for now. I'm not going to go into the worst games because I don't think it's kind of too fair to say things are the worst. But, maybe something will come to me. So I believe that I can move on to some interesting things now. And when I say interesting things, rather uninteresting things, because it's a bit of a Christmas-themed one. A materialistic little topic here. So what is the best present that you guys have had? Maybe you could involve yourself in this if you're actually listening, if anyone's actually watching. What is the best present you've ever had? And I'd say the best present I've had wouldn't be... I'm not going to specifically go into one present, but I'd say it's the quirky ones that you don't expect. The ones where people have obviously thought of you, and even if it's something tiny, but it's something you like, whether in regards to me, if it's like Ghostface from Scream or anything horror filmed, like I got these Friday the 13th socks recently, or even just a card with some writing in that note that means something between me and that person, and I'd say that's one of the best presents you can get, just someone thinking of you, or even if money isn't involved, just them talking to you, letting them know if you're a good friend or that they love you, if they're a close family member or something like that. I think just that is enough, to be quite honest, and just the experience of being around people at Christmas is a great one. It's not to be... Things like that are priceless. You can't buy spending time with someone. Well, I mean, yes, if they're a prostitute, but that's regardless. It really is priceless to spend time with your loved ones, and if you're sitting there kind of lonely this Christmas, my heart goes out to you, because whether it be you're scared of seeing your loved ones because of COVID, but definitely make use of technology and get them phoned. It's too important to not do that. It's those kind of things that make life worth living. If you catch my drift, rather than materialistic things. In regards to worst presents, like, I know, materialistic again, but I don't think there can be really bad presents. There's like presents which you kind of roll your eyes at every year. Smelly sets and the gift things. I remember one year my mum got me like a David Beckham gift set, knowing full well that I've never been into football in my entire life, but now I can smell like David Beckham if I want. Yay! I think I've still got a bottle of David Beckham fragrance upstairs, which I've never used. But I mean, it's one of those, like, it's not a bad present, but it just kind of makes you laugh, because it wouldn't even cross your mind to be interested in anything like that, but it's stuff you get anyway, and I can tell that it does have a functional purpose as well, so that's always a good thing for a present. But yeah, what presents did you guys get for Christmas this year, or did you get anything, or did you have any nice experiences? Please let me know in the comments if you are watching. But I mean, that leads me on to the fact that it is probably one of the last podcast Snapshot episodes of the year. So I'd just like to say from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of James as well, thank you very much for watching over the past year. I know we started this at the very start of the pandemic, and it's been going for quite a while now. I mean, I would never be able to see myself doing something like this on Boxing Day if we hadn't have started the podcast all that time ago, and it just felt like something I wanted to do. It is the season of giving after all. But yeah, I'm so glad to have started this, and it always makes me feel good whenever I've done one, and it does make me sad when weeks and weeks fly by, and obviously everyone's busy. No one can help it, but I do like to keep up with the podcasts. So having said that, I hope everyone has an excellent 2022, and I'm sure there's a lot more exciting podcastness to be coming from me and James. Apologies if this was a bit of a blabbed one, but I hope you enjoyed this little snapshot podcast and this nice background which I wanted to make use of as well. Totally not the reason why I did this yet. But yeah, thank you very much everyone. Have a great new year and see you on the flip side. Goodbye!